Well, hello, I'm Joe Yazbek for another edition of Leaders Taking Action. And we have a very special guest today who is, without a doubt, a leader in his industry and the industry of real estate. And what makes this so very special is he's been able to achieve great success in a very short period of time as a real estate agent and leader in this industry. And I'm going to be interviewing today Mr. Robert Paolini from Berkshire Hathaway. Robert, welcome.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you bet. All right. So one question that I would like to ask you for our listeners, and that is, why did you choose real estate out of any other profession to excel in?
Well, I'm glad you used the word why. A lot of people are trying to answer what and how, and I think why is the most important. But being a third-generation realtor in my family, I know, and I've always known, that real estate sales is really people service, and I'm a people person, so it's just a platform that I can shine on.
Wow. Well, what made a difference in the very early going? Because you've been only 3 years now in the real estate industry, and you're number one out of thousands of other realtors in your offices. How did that happen?
Well, if you want to talk about overnight success, I started on a professional level in the local area here, owning indoor tanning salons and meeting people on a personal level, seeing them every day, building up a database of tens of thousands of people. I just created a professional reputation that just really launched my career right away.
What made you switch and transition into real estate from there?
Just seeing the lack of a ceiling there. With a brick and mortar business of any kind, there are some restrictions that you have to get through greater than something like real estate. But in general, as far as the income possibility and the reach you can do and the impact you can have on others' lives is so much greater and so much more fulfilling. And actually, I believe that even more today than I did when I made the choice.
Well, you've become valuable because you've learned the success steps. You've taken the liberty to codify and to put into writing a lot of your solutions and a lot of the steps for success for other realtors.
Absolutely.
And so name a few of those.
Well, it's just a few things. We've talked about it, like number one, catching cats. When agents get into a brokerage, there's going to be their own set of training. They're going to learn certain things to do in the beginning, certain things to do to maintain. You're going to learn scripts. But with me, it's more of a mindset. It's more of an attitude. It's more of a perspective, an approach to the client, understanding the client. And when I say catching cats, I mean don't pounce on people, or especially cats, but do what it takes to serve them in the language that they understand, that fits their needs, above and beyond the needs of the agent, and that's where the results come from.
I like this because what you're advocating is that you have a system where you're allowing people to come to you.
Absolutely.
It's an attract basis. It's how do you communicate, or how do you coordinate, and all of the other factors involved in having people trust you, have confidence in you.
It's really the law of authenticity that I teach. It's just that agent, that person being themselves. The best thing we can offer another human being is ourselves. So you don't have to be a clever, closer or a salesperson or be this outgoing, talkative type person to succeed in sales. With the system that I've kind of perfected, you could be anything, reserved, more numbers-based, what have you, and excel greatly in real estate.
This is so great that you have a system. Let me ask you, what are some of let's get down to the nuts and bolts. What are some of the knowables, the educational tools that you teach realtors to become successful that they can't get from, say, any other broker or dealer?
I'd say first and foremost is understanding the mind of the client, knowing your client that you're approaching, and not so much a general perspective of how clients think, but that specific client. And for example, like clients that want to sell their house by themselves. You're a homeowner, I'm a homeowner. A lot of agents deal with those types of clients that are on the internet trying to sell their home themselves, and are either struggling or have just started, so many agents pounce on them. And I have a very nice perspective to give to those agents to help them find ways to find the need, find the want of that homeowner, and then be able to sell the house for them so they can make more money.
Well, there are realtors that are continuously up against certain problems they're trying to avoid, right? I mean, the seasonal stuff, what happens when the economy collapses a bit. I'm sure you probably have listed out quite a few of those. How would you lead or motivate or inspire a realtor to know that you have some answers to handle those problems that they're trying to solve?
That's another very good question. I think the biggest fear for realtors is, what do we do when the market isn't great? If you really look at real estate as a long-term profession, you have to answer those questions, or you'll be in and out the business just as fast. And most people don't get into it just to get out really quick. They get out because they haven't figured that out, and they can't survive as the market shifts from, let's say, a seller's market to a buyer's market. So yes, absolutely, we have the details on how they can push through and actually thrive greater in a shifting or a buyer's market.
What are some of the other problems that realtors face that you help them with?
Oh, it could be the seasonality of your leads, your contracts, what to do if you don't have any more leads coming in, and how to manage the ebb and flow, the ups and downs of your income, and not feast or famine, not be overspending when times are good and underspending when they're bad. It's that yin-yang, that roller coaster effect that really makes for a stressful experience, not good for the agent or the client.
Yeah, realtor's actually an entrepreneur in business for themselves, and much like opening a business, it's very difficult sometimes.
Yes.
But you've managed to really win at this in a very short period of time. What advices would you give somebody just starting out?
I would say the first thing is the mindset, believe it or not. You could go to college and get a 4-year degree in real estate. You can study every book under the face of the earth. But if you don't make yourself better to handle the good days, the bad days, the daily tasks that are really required for not only consistent results, but your income and growing your income, and the reason why we do what we do, they run into some problems, and it's the fastest way out of the industry. So that alone, I think, mindset by far is the most important thing. And that's really the most important thing we focus on.
This is very inspiring because you take your work not just as work, you take it as I think, and in talking with you even before this interview, you look at this as somewhat of a crusade. I mean, you're not just out there to help realtors, you're out there to help people improve. And in fact, even to the point where you have a book that you're writing currently. Let's talk about that.
Yes,
Tell us
sir.
about your book and who will be best served by reading this book.
Well, yes, real estate is my passion. It's not just a job. So I'm writing the book because I've seen in the last few years so many agents do it wrong. So many complaints by the consumer. And now, in an age of technology and data, we have what we in the industry call disruptors who are trying to streamline everything online. You buy and sell a house with a couple clicks, like Amazon or something. And
You're talking about the robo-agent.
Yes, absolutely. And being a third-generation realtor, I believe consumers need that personal touch, and I believe, good people who have the best interests of their clients in mind deserve to make a good living doing that.
So the book, tell us about the book.
The book is actually, I call it like a coach with chapters. It's something that not only you can read and be inspired by, but there's principles to build that mindset. There's tasks to follow to give you predictable results, but it can also be used as a great reference tool to constantly grow and excel your business.
Okay, so you have realtors out there and they have sellers, they have buyers. How do you help the realtors best serve the sellers and buyers?
Well, we do that with a technical process, but I'd like to share a story with you for, let's say, clients who tried to sell their house themselves and failed. Basically, they had it on the market, whether they had an agent or tried themselves, and it expired. So just to give somebody a little anecdote on what that means to the eye of the seller, I call it the story of a boy and the family stone. So there was a young man that always saw a stone at the mantle of his house, and his father has always told him that it's a family heirloom and it's priceless to them. It's been handed down for generations. The boy wasn't sure what he meant or how much it was worth and was curious, so the father just said, I'll do a little lesson with you. I want you to do something for me, son. So he tells him to take the stone. It's a smooth little stone, and he says, I want you to just take this to the town village, hold up 2 fingers and hold out the stone. Don't say anything, don't do anything else. Take out this stone and do just that. He does it. He goes out there, and then in a few minutes, a young lady comes up to him and says, young man, that's a nice stone you have there. I'll give you $2 for it. Surprised, but understanding and remembering what his father told him, he runs home and tells the father what happened. He says, okay, good. Now this time, I want you to take the same stone and do the exact same thing, nothing more and nothing less, but go to the jeweler inside the village, the local museum. So the little boy says, okay, I'll do it, and he goes to the museum and he holds out the same stone, does the same thing, and holds out the 2 fingers. A few minutes later, the manager comes up and says, young man, that's a very nice stone. That's an ancient artifact that we here at the museum search for on a regular basis to try and put it out as an exhibit to our clients. Again, listening to his father, startled, he just runs home and tells him what happened. Father says, okay, one more time, I want you to take the stone to the quarry just outside the village where they dig up the stones and they sell everything to the local jeweler and the miners. And he does just that. He goes to the middle of the mining quarry, he holds out the stone and holds up 2 fingers. Well, the museum manager was going to give him $2,000. This time, a few minutes later, the owner of the quarry comes in, same stone, same little boy, 2 fingers, and says, young man, that's a very rare artifact that we dig up every day and we try to find because it's worth millions of dollars in masses. I'll go ahead and I'll give you $2 million for that rock. Little boy startled, goes back home, and we'll just end the story right there. But the point of it is, it's the same stone. He did the same thing. The same boy held up the same rock. When you took it to the village, that woman didn't see the value in it. She was willing to give him only $2. What if he would have said yes and gave him, took the $2? And instead, once the right person saw it, that understood the value, and the father knew the whole time where the value was, the little boy realized that the value is depending on who sees it. Who sees it? So if somebody's trying to sell their house and you as an agent get there and they're upset and they're barking at you and you're trying to think, well, what answers do I have? Just know that's the perspective they're coming from. They try to sell their home, they can't, it seems impossible to them, but in your heart it matters who sees the house. So then you price it right, you promote it right, and you create a listing that can be seen and shown and attracted by the right buyer to give that seller the right price. And that's what we teach in a nutshell, is knowing where and how to market a property to where the right buyer sees it for that seller.
Well, you've learned some very valuable lessons. Now you're passing them on to other realtors to become successful. And you're basically passing a torch, if you will. What do you see in the future for your company and for you as a major leader in your industry? What do you want to accomplish with a winning team of realtors?
I see happy men and women succeeding in business, succeeding in real estate, creating happier families, happier lifestyles, happier clients, and a growing industry of people helping people, arm's length like we are, succeeding in their goal to sell their property and or buy their dream home.
Well, that is leadership at its best. Robert Paolini, leadership in the real estate industry, helping realtors succeed. Thank you very much for a very inspiring interview.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
This is Leaders Taking Action with Joe Yazbek, here with Robert Paolini, signing off. Thank you. We'll see you again.